Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, January 10th, 2024. Happy New Year. Oh my goodness, I miss all you guys and gals. I thank you so much for joining us here on the World Wide Web around drag racing's water cooler. We got an action-packed show for you, dare I say it, a barn burner here to start the 2024 drag racing season. Remember, the Wes Buck Show comes to you every Wednesday during racing season, and we join here to celebrate what you heard me say in that sick intro our producer Blake put together. This is the great American motorsport, and it is our duty. It's our responsibility and privilege, above all else, to get to share with you the gospel of drag racing and talk about all the things happening inside and around the sport. And we've got a lot of news to cover. There's been so much happen in the last couple of weeks that we haven't had the opportunity to talk about. So anyways, I want to thank you guys all for being here. We've got some special guests that are going to join us today in just a few minutes. We will be joined by Courtney Enders from Flow Racing. We will also hear from Vic Alvarez, the owner of Bradenton Motorsports Park. We're going to talk all sorts of things about everything that's been going on down at BMP, from his the Christmas tree drag races to the upcoming U.S. Street Nationals, the Pro Superstar Shootout coming up immediately following, the World Series of Pro Mod. So much to cover around just the stuff that we've kind of got our hands on. But of course, there are all sorts of happenings in the sport of drag racing. So as we get started, we're missing a couple of folks here today. I hope everybody out there is staying safe. JT, my cohort here on the show every Wednesday, he's a little bit MIA right now. I don't know if we should be concerned. I've sent some messages, made some calls. He is trying to make it to the Drag Illustrated Missouri office. It's buried in snow. Last I knew, he had borrowed a tractor and was trying to plow his way to the door. So we all know JT is very capable of plowing through things. Typically it's beer and Captain Morgan's, but this time around it sounds like snow. Again, I hope everybody out there is staying safe. It's been a wild couple of days weather-wise, really across the country. I know that the East Coast was getting hammered. We've gotten some interesting weather down here in Texas, but I have to inform everybody that in the greater DFW area, it is a glorious day. It's 60 plus degrees. It's sunny, unbelievable weather. Another great reason to live down here in the great state of Texas. But anyways, to get the show started, I'm going to be joined by our director of digital content here at Drag Illustrated Magazine, someone who has become a huge part of our operation. And I'm excited to have her on the show. As always, the one, the only, Kayla Zadell. Kayla, what's going on? You doing well?
Hey, Wes. Yeah, good. How about you?
Man, swinging and ducking, as I like to say. It's been, you've been a part of this. You've been a part of this the whole way, really, honestly, since we announced the Pro Superstar Shootout, the Skag Power Equipment Superstar Shootout, presented by Johnson's Horsepowered Garage back in, I guess these ideas started to come together in April of 2023, and it's amazing that nearly a year has passed. Let's just talk about all that's gone on, really, not only in all of 2023, a great season for the sport of drag racing. I got to share a little bit about this during our 30 Under 30 press conference at the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show, and I'm not sure that I've gotten to really break that down a whole lot, but a banner year for our sport across the board. I don't know. It seems like we're cooking with gas headed into 2024 here. We've got a tremendous amount of momentum, multiple sellout events in 2023, and it really spanned the entire gambit of drag racing, right? It wasn't just the NHRA that was having a tremendous season. PDRA had a tremendous season. NMCA had a tremendous season. The Midwest Drag Racing Series had a tremendous season. All these regional sanctions and series seem to be flourishing. Streetcar racing, all these different things. Really, really, really incredible 2023. And it created an end to the year that was absolutely bonkers around here, right? Getting ready for PRI, the PRI party, Drag Illustrated After Hours. Holy moly. I mean, what can you reflect? I mean, is it crazy as it feels for me to be a part of all this stuff? Is it as crazy for you?
Yes, I would definitely say it's crazy. And we're only 10 days into the new year, like I was telling you before we jumped on here. But it's crazy. It's crazy. I feel like we just kind of went from PRI, like you said, we had the DI After Hours, and then we did the 30 Under 30 press conference, which was hugely successful. Again, there was only standing room in the conference room that we were in. So that was really fun to be a part of. This is my second year being a part of it. And that was a lot of fun getting to honor those 30 individuals that are really making a difference in drag racing. And then I feel like we maybe took just a little bit of a break for Christmas and New Year's. And then we just ramped it right back up again, because like you said, we do have that Pro Superstar Shootout coming up in, do I dare say, less than a month? So
I would just assume you didn't, to be honest,
okay.
but I'll take it. I mean, it is crazy that to see that ticking counter on thevote.com. Shout out to our ticketing partner here, official ticketing partner of Drag Illustrated and all the events that we have a hand in. To watch that thing count down from however many days it was to 35, 34, 33. And here we are a month out from what I believe to be the biggest happening in modern history of drag racing. I cannot personally identify anything that I think has the potential to impact our sport more so, especially at the highest levels, right? There's a lot of parts of the drag racing community, many of which are thriving, as we've discussed already. But whenever you look at, has there been anything that really had the potential to revolutionize or change the trajectory of pro level drag racing? And when I say pro level drag racing, I'm talking specifically about Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock. I don't know that there's ever been anything like this. And to be honest, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about this with both Courtney Enders from Flow Racing as well as Vic Alvarez from Bradenton Motorsports Park. Mm-hmm. But this is a significant happening. And as we were joking around in the green room, I think we've ticked a lot of boxes for our personal, the things that we wanted to accomplish with this event. We've already knocked a lot of those dominoes down. Do you agree? I mean, we're a month away and there's all sorts of anticipation and excitement. I think there's a lot of curiosity perhaps about how this is all going to unfold. But I'll tell you, looking at it from the inside, looking around, I can tell you change has happened and is happening. And I feel really good about that. Like, we're not even there yet. We got a month to go. But I still feel very strong in my convictions that we have accomplished a whole lot of what we set out to accomplish.
I would wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, this has been amazing just to be behind the scenes and see how we have put this together with the pro organization from start to finish. And I mean, don't you think this entry list is kind of like, we're going to have like a surreal moment here?
I know that I'm kind of bracing for that surreal moment. When I've had a lot of people, there's been a lot of discussion because it's no secret that we do another event, right? We put on the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod. And I think early on there was like perhaps a little bit of trepidation. I know that I was hearing that kind of on the side. I was getting texts going, hey, these events are 3 weeks apart. You know, there was public commentary going around that like one may cannibalize the other, all this. Mm-hmm. And what I'm left feeling in this moment, especially when I'm able to look at our advanced ticket sales, the metrics, you know, the hard numbers that we look at, web traffic, engagement on social, you know, reaction and response to promotional material. It's strong across the board. I mean, for both of these events. And what it reminds me of is there are race fans to go around. This is a fantastic time in motorsports where I think I've been begging for this for like 10 years, like 20 years. I wanted to see drag racing specifically be a part of like pop culture, be a part of in motorsports in general. And I think that time in a lot of ways had passed. Like you look back on, there was a point in time. I mean, I've got a little painting on the wall thing behind me that's got a laundry list of like racing or automotive related movies. Like I'm specifically thinking of things like American Graffiti, when car culture was really shoved down our throats, and it was cool to wear a leather jacket or a white shirt and, you know, go out to the drag races or go out to the street races. It was cool to be a car guy. I think that faded, but it's back. I mean, the thing that I couldn't believe no one was talking about this, and I'm getting completely off the subject here, but is there a company that's like making more waves right now than Tesla in the world? Right? I mean, they're making a lot of waves, good, bad, otherwise, no matter how you look at it. But when they needed to sell that Cybertruck to the masses, how'd they do it? On a drag strip. Have you thought about that?
I don't know if I saw that.
I mean, the promotional video, I'll send it to you if you haven't seen it. And this is shame on me for not spreading this message, but the Tesla people, and I'm no sort of electric car guy. Like, matter of fact, I would, you know, identify as anti-electric car, right?
We're going to go there.
We're going to go there. I would say that I am anti-electric car. It's not something that really interests me. Maybe I'm old fashioned. I liken myself a tech guy. I mean, I'm looking at MacBooks and iPads and iPhones, and
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm a tech guy for sure. However, I think there's a place for it. I think there's a time for it, and I don't think that this, you know, having it necessarily shoved down our throats, I'm not here for that. However, I want to go back to the Tesla example. I mean, this is a company that rolled out the Cybertruck to all sorts of fanfare and a lot of love and a lot of hate and everything in between, right? But whenever they brought that thing to market and made it available and started delivering this vehicle to people, they put out a YouTube video and posted it across their social media. And it was the Cybertruck drag racing a Porsche 911, right? A lime green, like Porsche 911. You couldn't pick a more, I mean, it was a great car to do this with. Anyways, the Cybertruck smokes this thing, smokes the Porsche on the drag strip. And when the camera pans out and when it starts to pull away, the Cybertruck's pulling an open trailer with a Porsche 911 on it.
You're kidding.
And still outruns the Porsche 911.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you have to send me this video.
I've got to send it to you. I'll do it like, literally as soon as we go off the air. But I hope everybody, like, kind of, I felt when I watched that, initially I saw it and I'm like, oh, because it was a close-up on like the front ends as they were pulling into the beams. And I watched it, and it took me a second to really understand or perhaps comprehend the significance of this, is that when one of the leading auto manufacturers, I mean, like I said, there's no denying the waves that Tesla has made, right? And I know that this is all like very divisive at times, and people have big, strong opinions about it. But think about it. This is a modern company that in many ways is blazing trails. And when they needed to send a simple message that the performance of the Cybertruck rivals that of the highest end sports car, they did it on a drag strip. And I just think that that is something that speaks to how easy to understand our sport is, and kind of makes me scratch my head as to why. Well, and it's an exciting thing, right? Because there's this fertile soil that I always talk about we're walking on in drag racing. In a lot of other sports and a lot of other industries, the ship has sailed, right? They've reached kind of the tippy top of what they're going to accomplish, and to have the opportunity to still do so much more is really exciting. And I think, again, that Tesla commercial just speaks to where we're at in as far as motorsports significance in pop culture and in the mainstream, that when they need to sell a vehicle and they need to rapidly demonstrate its performance characteristics, they used a drag strip. And I just think that that is such a feather in our sports cap. And I don't even know how I got on this tangent, but it's for me, it's exciting to think about the opportunities that still exist. I mean, there is so much opportunity. I mean, if they're going to use drag racing to sell Teslas, what does that say for us? What does that mean for us? I think it's pretty freaking significant, right? So the opportunity to roll into this event, the Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout, with the absolute star-studded roster that we have, Kayla, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a surreal thing, but it's a moment that is long overdue. I couldn't be more proud of it. And, you know, I want to talk with Courtney about some of this, because these are These are people that most of us grew up idolizing, looking up to, wishing someday we would cross paths with them. Now they're entered into our event. And
Right.
I honestly don't even know what the 10 or 15-year-old version of me would say on the starting line of Bradenton Motorsports Park, February 8th, 9th, and 10th, when Steve Torrance and Brittany Force roll through the water. Like this, I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited about it. Like everybody knows I'm a Doorslammer guy and I'm pro mod through and through. And none of that has changed. But I would be an absolute moron to deny the fact that guys like John Force, Ron Capps, Antron Brown, I mean, to have the opportunity to harness the energy and enthusiasm and fan following that they have, I'm beside myself, to be right honest with you. I think we're going to be somewhat stupefied when we arrive on the property there in Florida and really recognize what's about to unfold.
Right. I agree with you. And not only am I excited for what's happening on the track, but also what's happening off the track with the vendor village, the other things that we have going on, and then also what Flow Racing is bringing to the table as well.
Great segue, Kayla, and let's go ahead and introduce the one and only Courtney Enders from Flow Racing. Courtney, what's up? You've got yourself like a studio at this point.
Yeah.
Like you're on camera all the time now.
All the time. It's all I do is podcasts. I have no time to get actual work done. And I mean, I've had all this cool stuff. I've lived a really cool life and it's just sat in my attic. And so I kind of just put pride aside and put up all my favorite moments up on the wall. We got Dale Earnhardt back there, me and Anova, all the things. But yeah, of course I'm going to show it off.
That's awesome.
You have to, right?
Love it.
Well, thank you for joining us. I follow you on social media. If you don't, you should. At Courtney Enders on Instagram and Facebook, I believe. Courtney, yesterday you spent, I believe, the entire day in Kilgore, Texas, filming a piece with Steve Torrance and Billy Torrance, two of our racers, two of our entrants into the big one. Of course, the SCAG Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout. Can you, I mean, speaking of put your pride aside, I mean, why don't you put on your self-promotion, hat here for a second and let's riff on, you've done 25, I think, of these or something like that. Like take us through this whole process and how many people you've talked to and all that's gone on creating content for what I think will be the greatest live stream in the history of drag racing.
I'm so excited for it. And the Pro Superstar Shootout self-promotion hat is never far. So it's on, but we've gotten a lot of people kind of writing. I actually got a little piss poor email this morning from somebody about the show not being on actual TV and what's Flow really going to do different and how much can we really redo something like this to make it cool. And that's why I wanted to come on this show today and kind of announce something that it's not been a secret, but it's something that we've been quietly grinding on. And it is the, I believe we're calling it, this is how new it is, the Road to Bradenton, kind of like the Road to Eldora that we have at Flow, where it's content pieces of getting to know teams, drivers, owners, things like that before we air the race. Because Wes, Kayla, everybody, I mean, Wes, especially you and I have bonded on this the last 10 years. The cars are cool, but they're not the stars. And we've been missing the boat completely. So Flow has given me the reins, which is absolutely terrifying. They've given me a microphone, a live camera, and the reins to do what I want with this stuff. But we've done 25 content pieces ranging from 8 minutes to, I think the John Force one could probably be 148 minutes. We rolled all day. Him and I walked around his shop and talked, and he gave us the tour. He introduced himself to what he thought was a new employee. He'd been working there 3 years. We got some epic John Force moments of things like that. But so, I mean, we went cowboy hat shopping with Erica in Fort Worth on her birthday. We rode horses, lived a day in the life of Capco, pipeline dreams, as they call it there. Went to his ranch, spent time with Mama Kay and Charlie and Natalie up there. We cooked with Austin Prock. He's a culinary artist. He went to culinary school. So we cooked with him, sat and talked with the Koretsky's. I brought the McGahays, their wife and kids, got all of the backstories of them. So everybody's is a little different. We played video games with Derek Kramer. We did a practice tree tournament with TJ Coughlin. Like, you want to talk about, earlier in the show, you said that you have these surreal moments. The people that I talk to every day in my life, and I dish to, poor Dion. And I just said last night I had dinner with him and I said, I have to just talk and brag because I'm sitting there interviewing Steve Torrance, and I've known Steve Torrance since I was 9 or 10 years old. He wasn't as cool back then as he is now, but he was still cool. And I'm sitting there and he's being so candid and open and real with me and letting me into his life in his office. We're sitting in his office, excuse me. And I forgot what I was doing, and I forgot what I was saying, and I forgot what I asked because I was looking in his eyes and I thought I was watching something on TV. And like I totally screwed the pooch and didn't know what I was asking next and had to get my phone back out. But those surreal moments have happened each and every time that I've done one of these. Walking around John Force's shop, I'm like, who the hell let me do this? It's insane. But to reiterate on, it's what's been missing. And drag racing needs no help being cool. We blow stuff up. We go fast. We've got some of the coolest vehicles and monsters, but we see eyeballs. And I'm not any kind of pillar in anything, but they've given me an opportunity to do it. And I'm going to take it and run with this and do something that I feel like I've wanted to see. And we're going to start releasing those late next week. We're going to do about one a day leading up to it. They're going to be available on the event hub on flowracing.com to go back and rewatch these. The drivers should share them on their socials. And we're going to put some in the stream and we have some downtime.
I think we talked about this in the green room before we started the show, but it's like we're peppered with examples of the impact of this type of content in the mainstream sporting world. Like, if you don't have to look any further than this last week of all the content that was created around the National College Football Championship. And I mean, you get to know the players' coaches, you get to know the players' parents, you get to know the players' friends, teammates from their high school teams. I mean, it's amazing the effort that goes into all these things. And I know it's easy for folks to fixate on these crazy big numbers that are thrown around in big sports, but that kind of dollar figure is almost what's required. Because I mean, I don't think we're talking out of turn by identifying the fact that, like, this is super expensive. Flying Courtney all over creation and a camera crew all over creation to do these on-site productions. It's massively significant and it's a huge undertaking. So like, I tip my cap to you guys, you specifically, but the whole team at Flow for believing in you and in the concept, because I agree. I think one of the things that has held our sport back, perhaps more so than anything else, is a belief that the cars are the stars. And I say this a lot, and I think fast cars, cool cars, big burnouts, wheels up launches, header flames, 300 speeds, all these things, I can keep going. They will bring people out. They will. The thrill show aspect of our sport by itself will get someone to the drag races. But what gets them back to the drag races is a connection to a human being. And without that connection, you're reliant 100% almost on like constantly putting the thrill in front of somebody who maybe hasn't seen it before. Right. And that's not, in my belief, a way to grow. A way to grow is connect people to the stars of our sport. And it's why you see so many sports, when they have a star start to develop, they go all in. I mean, the UFC and Ronda Rousey, the UFC and Brock Lesnar, the UFC and Conor McGregor, when they know they've got someone that is special or has a story to tell or has a unique angle, they go all in on telling that story. I feel like I know the inner workings of like most major sport people's lives. I know that LeBron James grew up in a single parent home, and I knew they grew up. We've been told those stories, and we've not been told them once. We've been told them 10,000 times. And I think that's something that we're all a little, I have to take some of my own advice. I oftentimes will not create a piece of content or lay back on something because I've already made that point. I've said it. You can't say it enough. You have to say it in a multitude of ways. And going back to the John Force kind of situation, I think he would probably identify that there are a lot of people that have contributed to what John Force is today. And I know that he's always quick to give NHRA their flowers. He's quick to give track partners and promoters their flowers. He's always talking about his corporate partners, and he name drops. And there's a lot of people that have helped get John Force to where John Force is today. Mm-hmm. But I would argue it's him. He has told his story so thoroughly and so consistently. Like, no one hasn't heard the John Force broke truck driver story, pulling over at a payphone at a truck stop to make a call about a match race booking that ultimately launched his career. But he's been so consistent in telling that story and sharing his beliefs and his thoughts about things. It is no surprise to me at all that even in his 70s, he remains the biggest needle mover in our sport, because he has so consistently told his story. People know him. When they hear from him, they have a preconceived notion, right? Because they've got context. They've been given context to like why he's probably making this. And I hope that what you guys have done and what this group of people have collectively worked towards creating is an opportunity and a platform to tell those stories and introduce the next generation of John Forces, right? Like I feel very thankful to have had this opportunity to actually do a race with John Force's involvement.
Yeah.
To borrow some of his celebrity and fame and fanfare and put it to use for the greater good. But I recognize that opportunity is likely fleeting. I can't imagine that there's another 10 years of John Force actively competing at a high level. So it's amazing to get this done now, but we have to be telling the stories of the next man up, the next lady up, because we've got a bunch of tremendous stories. Tell me, you talked about a couple of the Cooking with Austin Prock and Video Gaming with Derek Kramer. Are these sides of people that you've never seen before? Like, do you think people are going to be surprised or caught off guard, Courtney?
Yes, and I think that there's a couple of reasons for this, and I'm a perfect person to ask that question to, because I've grown up in this. These are my friends. I raced Super Comp with Steve Torrance. Like, I've known the Force girls since we were small. Like, these are, while I've looked up to the sport and still see monumental creatures, and I told you guys in the green room, I was doing this interview with Steve Torrance yesterday, known him my entire life, and I'm sitting here listening to a story I've heard 50 times, and he's looking at me in my eyeballs, and I totally forgot what I was doing. I'm not kidding you. I was like, oh, I'm not on Netflix. I have to ask the next question. What the hell am I doing? And I kind of got caught up in it, like you said, even though I've already heard it. But I do think that it's a different side, because we either see them on when that switch is absolutely on and they're talking to Amanda or whoever it is at the top end down there. When they're on the mic, they spew out these things that are great and need to be said, like you said, John did. But them being comfortable with me also helps, in a sense of maybe telling it in a different or more comfortable way. Like Billy Torrance was a little nervous. He said, I'm horrible. I give one-word answers. I called him Jim Halsey. So you got to do better than Jim Halsey. Give me 2 words, maybe. But he was like, I just don't know what to do. I said, just talk to me. I've known you since I was 10. Just talk to me. And we got done. It didn't feel like we were peppering questions. And he was like, that was so easy. And so self-promotion hat again, I think it's easy for them to get a little more intimate with me with this same stuff, because we can talk. But also on the other foot, as we're doing this, and you know, Kayla, Wes, everybody, you guys know these teams are thirsty, dehydrated, thirsty for this kind of content, because this is one of the most important things leading up to this race. As you said, Kayla, no, it's not a month away. Do not tell me that. I'm going to have nightmares. I don't want to think about it. But we've been leading up to this, doing so many things. And Wes, Kayla, on these calls, like, what are they peppering me about? They're not asking me about camera stuff. They're not asking me about what are we going to do. They're not worried about the stream. Who's going to be on the content series? How do we get the deliverables? When are they going to air? Can we use them? Can our sponsors use them? And that's a tall tell right there that they are not getting what they need to get. And this is not a drag out, beat down of what we have. It's been working. Like I said, we need no help. We need no excitement. Drag racing is incredible. The TV show is incredible. And like I kindly told the man who emailed me this morning that Flo shouldn't be doing this, you got to switch it up, and we want the narrative. That was more important to Pro and these drivers and Drag Illustrated and Flo even, to control the narrative. And I think when you let it loose on another way, the teams kind of know where they stay, and they've got to stay at the fences. But now that it's on the internet, it's like everybody's just, what can we do here? Oh, Justin Ashley can fly a plane. We can go to this. I'm like, why have you people not been interesting before? Like, this is amazing.
But I do think it's really to the opportunity. Go ahead, Kayla.
I was going to say, I'm really excited to see these pieces because my background is in broadcast journalism. So, I'm used to sitting down.
Oh, no, don't watch me.
No, Courtney, you are great. I'm so excited to see you and all of these drivers and their pieces. But so I'm used to sitting down, getting those stories told, in the 3 to 3.5 minute stories. Sometimes, they're longer, they're 5 minutes, but I just don't feel like our sport has had that opportunity unless you hire a third party. So I'm so glad Flo and you have given our drivers, this opportunity to tell their story that they can, like you say, to live on the internet. So
I said yesterday, and y'all know me, everybody watching this show knows me, I'm a little brash, but if you don't like Courtney Enders, you better shut the Facebook down for the month of January because it's going to be heavy. It's going to be heavy.
I mean, but that is 1000% what's required. And I hope, I mean, that stuff's not easy. I totally respect the challenge that is putting yourself out in front of the world.
It's new to me too. This is something I've never done.
Do it all the time.
The top end stuff we're getting used to. I love telling the stories at the racetrack. And then they're like, hey, here's X amount of dollars that we believe in drag racing and what you've promoted. And you've helped Wes of promoting this race and getting Flo on board with it. But they're like, here, go tell these stories. I've never done anything like this before. And so this has been really cool on a Courtney front to be able to kind of find what I love about this sport, as I always have in the last 30 years, but kind of fine tuning that craft. And I'm so nervous and excited for these to come out.
I can't wait to see them either, because I truly believe that it doesn't take a ton. I mean, you start opening folks' eyes to the fact that Steve Torrance is a private pilot, that he's a roper, like a competitive roper, that he is a cancer survivor, right? That he's part of a family business.
Yeah, why do we not talk about that? The man faced mortality, and that's why he is the way he is.
And that, those are the type of, their hooks is really what they are. I oftentimes like look at people and I think of them as like porcupines, kind of like they're little. How can they poke someone, and how can they attract some? And a lot of times it won't be the fact that most folks, I mean, myself included, are like so far removed from ever having the opportunity to go 330 miles an hour in 1,000 feet or experience 12,000 horsepower. Like we're so removed from that. And that's, thank God for that, right?
Yeah,
I'm good. I mean, I don't think we want everybody doing it,
yeah.
But when that's the focal point of the promotional effort, it's hard to create that connection. It's hard to build a bridge. But when you start talking about, okay, our world champion or one of our front runners headed into like our event is a cancer survivor, that alone may pique someone's curiosity or like I said, start to build a bridge between that fan and Steve Torrance. And that's just one example. I mean, there are infinite stories in the pits of a drag race, and it's our duty to do the hard work here on the front side. Oftentimes when it feels like no one's paying attention or no one cares, to tell those stories, right? And because people do care, and they certainly won't care if they're never made aware, right? So we have to do these things, and I can't wait to see them being a part of the broadcast, because I think that's where we're going to have the opportunity to really flex, is that, as compared to watching tractors drag the track or to watch just,
you won't see a tractor.
Yeah. And that is something that it felt like, I felt like I was speaking a foreign language almost, like whenever I said that, like I say it pretty brashly, like Courtney would say it on these conference calls, is that I watch these things. I watch the live streams. I pay attention. I study it because I want to look for opportunities. And there will be no track prep on camera. And it's not because I don't think it, and I'm not bagging anybody who doesn't. Not everybody has access to these things, and not everybody has the resources to execute these type of deals. But it's also not to say that there aren't ways to do it without sending a film crew out to multiple locations.
Right,
but
yeah.
My point is, I'm really proud of where this is headed. And I think sparking some change. I mean, I think that's what we all set out to do, is just demonstrate that it can be done different, right? We can try some things. We can try and fail, because I'm certain that there will be things
we're going to learn some stuff.
We're going to learn some things. And it's been a very, very, very exciting, interesting, and fulfilling experience thus far. And to think about all of that and know that we haven't even sent a pair of cars down the track, it's pretty freaking exciting. I mean, Courtney, do you feel, go ahead.
No, I do want to say this, and then don't forget what you were going to say.
No, you're good.
Something else that's happening on the flow front as we're doing this, we're learning. When you said we're going to learn some things, like, right? No, none of us have ever done anything like this before. None of the drivers, none of the promoters, not y'all, not Pro, not even Flow has done it. But in what we've been doing in this and how much Flow has believed in this pro race, I can't say what it is yet. And Victor, I can't wait to call you next week and tell you what we got. But I see you back there in the green room. Things that are happening at this pro race are going to make changes at Flow for the rest of drag racing. And if this didn't come about, I don't know if it would have happened this abruptly or if Flow would have, not that they don't believe in what we're doing, but we have to baby step here. This shit's expensive, right? And I'm a one-man band. Tom Bobelt and I are a two-man band in the drag program there at Flow. And we have all of these things we want to do. We want to have graphics with headshots. We want to have live timing. We want to have all of this stuff. And y'all, it is happening and it's going to trickle down to the rest of drag racing. So go ahead and switch your monthly to yearly. I promise you.
I totally agree with that. And I think that you have to go through a certain amount of these things to learn those things and find ways to apply them to others. Like this feels like we kind of reverse engineered it. And I always like to do that and think about what do we want to have happen? Okay, here's the experience we want for our fans. Here's the experience we want for our sponsors. Here's the experience we want for our racers. And now let's work backwards towards that, right? So that I think now that roadmap kind of exists and yourself, myself, everybody involved in this deal will have like notes to look back at and a playbook to look back at and go, okay, these things worked really well. And it would be easy to apply them in a scaled manner to this project or to that project. And for me, it's an exciting thing to just see some things happening differently. I mean, right now.
Isn't that the goal of what we did? Our narrative and the why of this race, I feel, has been misconstrued. And we just proved it right here. The why is to I've said this phrase more in the last 6 weeks than I'd like to admit, but to shake the sugar tree. Like shit's going to fall on your head when you shake the sugar tree, but you're going to move next time, right? So it's like we're all learning in this together. And I don't expect any kind of failures anywhere, but I expect things to happen that all of us are going to be like, oh, well, I didn't realize that. We're going to do this next time and whatever. And we'll immediately start to see that stuff with World Series of Pro Mod. And we're trying some stuff out at US Street to be able to do all this stuff. And so they're all going to feed each other. And I think that everybody who's had an opinion of why we're doing this, and if it's any kind of negative connotation, you're wrong. And this is why.
I couldn't agree more. And the trickle down effect and the impact. I mean, one thing that I'm super proud of, and I'm going to talk to Vic Alvarez about this in just a moment, but I think we've created a trend in invite only races.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that people called me crazy for. I mean, I had multiple arguments about the invite nature of the World Series of Pro Mod starting back in 2016. Like whenever I started throwing this idea around, I had multiple people. I mean, the first point, like the primary point of contention most folks had with me, well, this invite thing, this is crazy. Well, now that's like the model. It's everywhere.
I see it on social media all the time now. I just got invited. 50,000 reasons why you should come.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, and it's weird because I think there's this belief system that it's about exclusion. It's not at all about exclusion. Certainly that is like one of the things that happens. It becomes exclusive. And that's a feather in your cap. That's something that you want to achieve. But it's more about commitment and being able to know what you're providing to your fans. I actually watched an incredible interview this morning that JT told me to check out on the Pat McAfee show with Phil Mickelson, who's kind of one of the figureheads of this new live golf movement. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about how a big part of their approach for the live golf series was to make sure that fans and sponsor partners knew what they were getting, because the typical format of golf tournaments, and this is stuff that I don't know all that much about, but going for 100 years, it was like players picked and chose the tournaments that worked for them. We see the same thing in drag racing, right? We have teams that run exclusively on the West Coast, or when the series goes out to the Northeast, they'll run a couple of races, or maybe they always run the Charlotte race because it works for them and whatnot. Well, that can create a very tough environment for your fans, because the fans deserve to know what they're getting. They deserve to know who's going to be there, all their favorite drivers, all the people that they've fallen in love with. They deserve to know. And I think for sponsors who are looking to use drag racing as an opportunity to bring clients together, they need to know that the show, the people involved are significant, and people that, I use this phrase a lot, but move the needle, right? And I'm so proud of the fact that at these back-to-back events, the Superstar Shootout and rolling right into the World Series of Pro Mod, from top to bottom and left to right, we know who's coming. We know who's going to be there, and they're committed. And it changes the world when it comes to the promotion of these things, because as you've experienced, it's tough to do that, right? It's tough to do that and I respect the
nightmares we're all having.
Yeah. I respect the challenge that exists for a lot of promoters and a lot of major operations. I mean, NHRA and the list goes on. Oftentimes they don't know until the week of.
No. And
who's coming.
The postdoc thing, this is something we've dealt with as the person who feeds all of the correspondence from the fans, if you will, for Elite Motorsports, Erica, everybody. When we had a limited schedule, ProStock's running a full schedule next year, but when ProStock ran a limited schedule, we would get absolute hate mail from people who bought tickets to go to Brainerd or go wherever, and they get there to find out that the reason that they came is not there, and they're pissed off at us or whatnot. And I understand you're not going to, no news is good news. So they didn't really promote that ProStock was going to be on a limited schedule, but you get that. And they were unaware of what was or wasn't going to be there. And then they leave with a bad taste in their mouth. And that's even worse.
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of expecting too much. I think our sport, we're blessed. Drag racing is blessed to be the ultimate in hardcore, right? Racers are hardcore, fans are hardcore, but those, I feel a lot of times that's kind of we're preaching to the choir so frequently. We have to find a way to, like I said, poke a new person. That was one of the other things that Phil Mickelson talked about in his interview with McAfee was it's tough. How do you get new fans? Like the golf, they've talked about how their demographic continues to age. It was 55 to 60, now it's 65 to 70. These things,
bring the kids out to a tournament.
Exactly.
Or create those content pieces.
Yes.
You will hook new people.
Yeah, and we have to get some new fans. And I go back to my Tesla example. If drag racing can be used, if a company as advanced as Tesla and people that are thinking outside of the box, if they chose to lean on the sport of drag racing for a promotional piece, that tells me the sport of drag racing can cut through. That it can be a platform that speaks to the masses. So I believe the opportunity is there for us to grow the fan base. I want new fans. I want to expose the sport of drag racing to new people. I call it the Great American Motorsport. And I believe it when I say it. And I'm shocked at times how many people out there know. It's funny because most everybody knows what a drag race is.
They say it at a NASCAR race when they're coming in hot. It's going to be a drag race at the end.
I say that all the time. It's the best thing that can happen at a Formula One race, an IndyCar race.
A drag race.
A NASCAR race is a drag race breaks out. That's what they're banking on. What they want is a drag race to break out on the last lap, right? Headed toward that checker flag. They are sitting in the broadcast booth. They're sitting in corporate suites going, please come out of that final turn too wide, neck and neck, drag race into the finish line. And to think that we have the opportunity to experience that every single weekend and think about how much. I mean, it's no secret. There are teams on the sideline this year. There are very prominent drivers that are looking for sponsors, that are looking for partners. That I don't believe that has to be the case, but I think we have to take some responsibility for the station that we find ourselves as a sport with some of our most competitive people. JT made a great point. I don't know if you saw this. Mark Wardenhausen, one of our World Series of Pro Mod veterans, actually made a post on Facebook, I believe late last week, inquiring about qualified drivers that would be a good fit to drive his twin turbo Pro Mod, his team's twin turbo Pro Mod. And there were hundreds of replies, and it was almost overwhelming. I clicked see more comments like twice and gave up, because there was just, and the names you see listed. And I think about how talented these people are and the incredible stories they have to tell. I mean, one of your co-hosts on the Shake and Bake show, Courtney, Lyle Barnett, to think about him pretty much sitting out all of 2023, looking for an opportunity. That's shocking to me. This guy's one of the most interesting individuals that exists in our sport. He's got the ultimate feel-good story to share with people. He's well-spoken. He's cool. He's a cool guy. He's got a big character. And it's like, how in the world is someone like Lyle Barnett looking for sponsors? But I think our sport, we have to take matters into our own hands. We can't wait for, no one's coming to save us. No one's coming. No TV deal is going to show up and save everybody. Nothing's coming. No one's coming to save everyone. We have to do this ourselves. And I think, kind of in closing here, Courtney, it's, if we've accomplished anything with the Skag Power Equipment Pro Superstar Shootout presented by Johnson's Horsepowered Garage, I believe we have taken matters into our own hands.
We have. I was just going to say, you don't say nobody's going to save us, because we've invested a lot in this. And my main goal with all of this, and y'all know I love drag racing more than anything. I've given up everything for this sport without any kind of accolade. But the porcupine, I love that you said that. I'm going to use that a million more times like I do Barn Burner. I'm just copying Wes Buck across the board. But my main prerogative is, when you get there, we've got, guys, ladies, mostly guys, they bring their wife or their kid or their brother or their cousin to the racetrack, and they're like, okay, that was cool. We're going to have this stuff up on the big screen in the event hub, all of that. If you're a chef, you're going to kind of leanate towards Austin Prock. If you like shopping and are just basic biatch all over the place, you're going to like Eric Anders, John Force, this and that. I want people to leave there, click follow on these things. I don't care if you follow Flow Drag Racing. I don't care what the deal is. You follow the stars of this sport, and we continue to be able to feed you what we're doing, where they're at, this other cool content, but it stays in your frontal lobe. They're going to come back. And we're not doing that with a cool race promotion video or ticket sales for this or whatever. They've got to click follow. And I know that's really, really cliche, but I mean that in a sense of to follow what they're doing, to be aware of where they can catch them and build this connection, this false connection that we always have, which is becoming more authentic with social. All these athletes are running their own pages. That's my goal through this, was to get such different characters, and we didn't hit them all, and there's no reason for it. I'm going to get a little heat for that. It was to show the difference of these people in there. It's not the coolest. It's not the ones with the most following by any means.
And at times I tell people it's the path of least resistance.
Also
some
people, that if their PR reps were easy for me, I scheduled them. But like Derek Kramer, I mean, I wanted to hit, I said this to his face, the nerds. We played video games. He makes apps. Like everybody that walks in the gates at Victor's house is going to be able to use what we've done to connect to somebody, follow it, and become a drag racing fan before it. We do a good job of getting motorheads into drag racing. Let's get the other ones. So that's my prerogative with this. And I really, really hope that everybody enjoys it. I'm so sorry that I'm the face you have to see through all of it. I'm already sick of it too.
I appreciate it, and I believe it's necessary. And I hope that there is a day that we're able to look back on all of this and recognize that, and hopefully have created lasting change and brought a little bit of fresh energy and a new perspective to what's going on here, because that's probably what I'm most proud of with Drag Illustrated, is being able to adapt and to be agile and to change with the times. I mean, I think a media company, you are forced to be ever evolving. We built our business on the back of a printed magazine at a time when print magazines were going away left and right. And I had multiple people tell me that I needed to get my head checked. And what we did first and foremost was stay the course, right? We stayed the course, but we also weren't afraid of new things. When the social media revolution started to unfold, we embraced it. When email became more a part of our lives, we embraced it. Whenever YouTube became something that was like an expectation, we leaned into it. And I think that I see all these things as now tools in our belt, so to speak, or whatever. They all serve a different purpose. They maybe speak to a different audience, or they speak to a specific portion of the audience. And I'm proud. I'm genuinely
so
proud.
This is, I've never been more proud of anything to be a part of. And I hope looking back 10 years from now, seeing this, and even if this is the only big break I get with this stuff, like, man, selfishly to say I was the girl who got to go do all this stuff. And I am so proud and so honored to be at this big boy table, as I call it.
It most assuredly is. And I feel much the same. I think back to some of those early conference calls with all the pro board.
I didn't feel like I should have been in the room.
You talk about imposter syndrome flaring up. Like, I had it on my shoulder going, why are you talking to Robert Hite? Why are you telling Alan Johnson what you think? Why are you telling Chad Head what we should do?
Now I'm like, listen, Chad.
But it's a really surreal thing. And I'm genuinely proud of it. And I think all of us, I mean, nitro racing at this level, well, it's actually never happened, in my opinion, at Bradenton Motorsports Park. But it's been since the late 80s that high-level competitive nitro racing happened at Bradenton Motorsports Park. I think John Force is the only one of our nitro drivers that have competed at Bradenton Motorsports Park, but it was 30 years ago. I mean, and to think about bringing this circus to town, to a track like Bradenton that's got that vibe, got an atmosphere. I say it all the time, big wedding, small church. And I cannot wait to get there and to be stuck in traffic and waiting in lines. And I just can't wait see people swinging from rafters. It will
I'm gonna be sneaking off to the Bat Cave, Victor. Don't even.
I can't even put what I think on social because Facebook flags it. I put a thing on social and I put Bradenton is burning. I mean, because we will burn that place to the ground. I don't know that it will ever be the same.
Victor's just cracking up back there in the group.
He's probably like, I'm okay with it burning to the ground. It's
it might
help.
But and the last thing I want to leave you with, and you did me a solid, and I think you demonstrated here, perhaps unknowingly, the point of all this. You mentioned Jim Halsey to Billy Torrance. I venture to say Billy doesn't even know who Jim Halsey is. And Jim Halsey is one of the most iconic pro modified drag racers of all time. And I would like, if we did a list of like 100 people, I mean, he's on a lot of lists. I mean, I think he could be on the Pro Mod Mount Rushmore. And to think about how much, and it's not like negative division, but just how kind of segregated our sport is. I mean, that's been one of the things that I've been really reminded of perpetually. And we're all guilty of this. Like we know our circle, right? But there's life beyond those ropes of your nitro pit. And I am so proud that there's something happening here where Billy Torrance or Steve Torrance, perhaps two of the, I mean, Steve Torrance is a living legend when it comes to drag racing. I want Jim Halsey to be mentioned in the same breath as Steve Torrance. I believe he deserves that. And to see that high tide lifting all boats, I mean, it goes back to when we first started the magazine. The Drag Illustrated was founded on the belief that there were a whole lot of stories that needed told that weren't being told. A lot of the people that I felt still were making the most significant impact in our sport and doing these incredible things, and oftentimes doing them in spite of great odds, right? Those stories weren't being told because they were happening outside the confines of nitro racing, outside of pro stock, outside of those pro pits. And we wanted to tell those stories. However, we recognized that we must resist the urge to do the same thing to them that has been done to us, to the outlaws and the grassroots guys and the weekend warriors. We wanted to include those pros because I knew it would do a lot for regular racer that is a relative unknown to see his picture or to see his name or to see his face or his race car in the pages of a magazine that also featured photos and information about John Force, Ron Capps, Antron Brown, whatever the case may be. That does a lot for that lesser known guy's ego and for validating all the time and energy and money that he's put into his program. You give him a little something to stick his chest out about. And I hope that by having these events relatively close together at the same venue, we're going to create some of that crossover and create some of those opportunities where we saw it at the Snowbirds. We've seen it at the U.S. Street Nationals with Antron Brown, an icon in Top Fuel racing, driving a 275 radial car, standing around hanging out with Manny Bajinga and his Pro Mod car at the World Series of Pro Mod, showing an interest in lending some credibility and to a different style of racing. We will all benefit from that in the long run. We may not know it now, but we will all benefit from it. And especially these outlaw racers that have long since felt like they were on the outside looking in. So anyways, Courtney, I know you got to bounce.
I do. I want to say one
so
more thing. I do have a flight to catch, but I could talk a million things. We have pit cameras, all the things we want to talk about. But as we lead up, we're going to release some more really cool stuff that we're doing different with this pro race. But I wanted to remind everybody, I think it's a common misconception also, all of these content pieces that we're doing, these are going to be in front of the paywall. Yes, the race is going to be behind the paywall, but you guys can go. They're not up there yet, but when we start this collection, you can go to Flow Racing and see this stuff for free. We get this all the time. Would love to see the content. Would love to read the articles. Everything but the race is free. So please do not hesitate. Even if you can't subscribe, don't want to, all the things, these content pieces are going to be something. If you love drag racing, it is just going to be unreal. And I think that that moving forward, that a lot of other things are going to be doing stuff like this. And so I hope that we can, maybe we'll go do one on Victor or something,
Hey,
I'm going to keep bugging you back there because you can't say nothing to me, boy.
you can come follow me around for a day or two.
Yeah, we should do Wes Buck.
You are close. You're in the great state of Texas with me. But thanks for letting me bombard this. I love it. I'm always happy and proud to be on the Wes Buck Show. And we'll see you guys in.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for let's give it up for Courtney and Nurse. Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate it.
You.
Talk to you soon. Look who's here. JT.
What's up?
Look, real quick before we move in. So are you making it, buddy? I know you're.
Yeah.
How much snow do you guys have right now?
Oh, I don't know, because it's blowing around so much. Like.
Oh no.
I don't know. Yeah, it took a while to get out today, but
yeah, I figured as much.
Well, I got my wife out this morning. I got up at like 5:30 and went up and down the road, but there was no way to get her car out. So then she took my truck, and one of those deals. Yeah. So we finally just got a tractor out and just dug our own way out.
That's what you got to do, man. Sometimes. I mean, I was just talking about it. Taking matters into your own hands, throwing JT as the key to a Ford, 9N or whatever.
Actually, we got the old 706 out. So
okay.
Yeah, it's just an old one. Yeah,
Bladen Roads, man. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, the man of the hour who has really created something special down inside the perimeter of Bradenton Motorsports Park. Let's chat with the one, the only, and give it up for him, guys. Victor Alvarez. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys?
What's up, Vic?
Hey, Vic.
What's up, Vic? You doing all right, buddy? How's things in Florida? You guys about got blown away. Tornado or something touching down.
All that stuff always misses us. Luckily, not complaining. I get all these texts from, you could tell all my friends from out of town. They're like, "Are you guys okay?" I'm like, "Something happened? I don't even know."
Oh my God.
It's so crazy. Like that. All that. I'm a big. I tend to go down some wormholes on the internet regarding conspiracy theories, and I was super excited about some things popping off in Miami last week, and I'm going, please be aliens, please be aliens. And me and Don Garlitz, we're serious about aliens, and I thought there were some walking around, and I started texting a couple of my buddies that live in Florida. I'm like, hey man, are there aliens in Miami? Do you know anything about this? And they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I literally, and I'm like, how do you not know about? Do you not get on Twitter or X or whatever?
Yeah, my wife was telling me about the aliens, and I'm like, are you sure?
What?
Aliens at the mall, man. 8 to 10.
They've admitted it at this point.
Really?
Yeah, the government has admitted it, but they were showing us something else at the time. Yeah, they put it out there. Area 51's real. Yeah, all that.
I have a quick story for you. So when my husband and I were in Cabo in November of last year, we were going to dinner. We saw these lights fly across the sky. It was 12 of them all together, right? Well, we were asking people at the resort. JT, that's what it was. We thought we saw aliens.
Like everybody thinks that.
It's the most commonly reported UAP.
It's like, how do you not know about this yet?
I didn't know about it either, to be fair. I was getting really excited for the story, and then JT killed it.
Sorry, my bad.
No, it's all good, dude. But were people talking about it? Because this is the thing that drives me crazy. Is it's my biggest complaint with the whole UFO Twitter and just the alien kind of thing is, and I do believe in aliens. I truly believe that I can't imagine the universe is as big as it is, and there's just nothing else.
It's just us. It's just us.
I mean, I even heard that like someone in the Catholic Church was once quoted, and I'm like going to butcher this, I'm paraphrasing here, but said something, don't watch this, anybody at the Vatican, but it said something to the effect of like, do you think God is like, do you really think he would have put all of his eggs in this basket? Like, I mean, and it's kind of interesting. Like, do you think it's all just right here? He created all of this, but I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but the problem I have, where we need better footage. Like, how come every time I see a spaceship, it's super pixelated? How come every time I see an alien, it's like shot on a potato phone? It looks like something that John Force filmed with his flip phone.
They got better pictures. They got better pictures than they do of the Bigfoot, though. Like
for sure.
Yeah,
maybe
those are really
maybe,
bad.
but it's like, man, my phone this thing shoots like 1080p. Like
maybe it was Bigfoot at the Miami Mall.
It might have been Bigfoot or a slew of Bigfoots at the Miami Mall, but I think this stuff's actually really interesting to talk about. But Vic, I want to touch on your end to 2023, specifically the Christmas tree drags, and just cool. Like to see that place. And this is another example of, I have this conversation a lot, and it ties into the conversation around invite only and all this stuff. But to think that you packed that place out, Bradenton was people everywhere, wall to wall, to watch cars with Christmas trees strapped onto them. I mean, it's funny because it's not like you had 500 cars there. You didn't have a booked in ProMod show or a booked in bunch of whatever. What's happening down at Bradenton Motorsports Park? Like, even are you taken by like the foothold that you guys seem to have established along the Florida Gulf Coast?
Yeah, I mean, nobody at Bradenton can take credit for that race entirely. Obviously, we work with the Freedom Factory guys and Cletus and his guys, and they all have a good following, but you can feel it at all of our events now. Like, you walk around and you see all of the same people. Like, we have regulars. Like, our local audience has just grown so much, and the Tampa Bay area is huge. Like, when I say local audience, I'm talking about people that drive 2 hours for a test and tune or anything that we do. But it's just getting really good. Like, Bradenton is just like, it's a vibe, man. Like, everybody loves that place. We can say we're doing a freaking Halloween race tomorrow. It's late and people would show up. Like, it doesn't matter what we do. We've got that going on.
Your winners are crazy. Like,
it's nonstop.
So many events there throughout the winter.
We did a New Year's bracket race. We did a bracket race for Christmas. We did the Christmas tree race. We did obviously the snowbirds. Like, it's nonstop from now. I mean, pretty much from FL2K until World Series of Pro Mod, we're just on go. And everybody comes as much as they can. Like, we have such good support. And it's like, we've earned it. It took some time. We've earned it. We've shown people that we put everything we have into it. It'll rain and we'll clean up the track and do whatever we can to keep on running. We guarantee our purses, and we put everything we have into it, and our supporters do the same.
You should buy that land, that where they're going to develop for housing, and just have it be like the drag racing snowbirds. Like, everybody just goes there, buys
they
a
said
house.
They were going to make it a drag racing or automotive community or something like that.
I mean, really, right?
But no, I mean, and it's crazy. I talk to people like, I moved here. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, we came here for FL2K or Snowbirds or World, and like, we loved it. We moved here, and I'm like, are you like people like? I mean, it's a cult almost. People love Bradenton Motorsports Park and the Freedom Factory. It's like, we're the biggest. I mean, we're the largest attraction in Manatee County. Yeah, there's nothing else. What else is there? We don't have Disney or like people.
Thank God.
People come here. I know, right? But people literally, we are a destination. People come here to see these two tracks. It's amazing.
It is.
That's
It really,
awesome.
it's crazy to think about the impact that you guys have on that local economy. And I know that there's been, I was going to hit you up about this because I had one of our Jason Dukes, a regular here on this show, but also the host of the Racing Business podcast, which we actually need to get you on, Vic. He had a really interesting conversation a few weeks ago with JT. You were a part of it with a high-ranking person from SEMA, and they were just talking about making sure like politicians know what's going on and like trying to get them invested in it. So as much of a bad thing as I'm sure this whole housing development and all this stuff has there been any upside to just making these folks aware of the significance of what's happening out at BMP? Because maybe they aren't aware. I mean, I think I was going to ask you, do you have a list? I mean, should we invite some of these people? Like, I'll get them hotel. Like, let's get some of these legislators, whatever, these government people.
We
get
send them
out
tickets. All right. So the good, I guess, that came from all of that stuff is like when we went down there and, we had a ton of support and we were, fighting for what we believe in, which is to not build houses. But at the end of the day, like, you can't expect these people to own this property and anybody tell them what they can and cannot do. So unfortunately, like, sooner or later, they're going to build homes, and you see it when you're driving there. But I think the good that came from it is we really like opened up their eyes to what we do, the impact we have on the local economy, the amount of people that support us, the amount of people that come here that would never come to Manatee County otherwise. And I think that at some point that's beneficial. We email tickets to all the county commissioners every time we have an event. We email them tickets. We ask them to come, and I think that we have their attention, and they knew about us. Like, they oh yeah, we can hear it at night, here and blah blah blah. But now I feel like they understand like the magnitude of what is going on and what we're doing.
I think so too, because oftentimes it's hard to find and you got to look for it and you got to kind of dig around, but there's a silver lining to these things. And there's going to be battles to fight, and there's a battle being fought now.
Yeah, there's going to be a day where we may need them for something and they're going to be like, guys, all right, we didn't know it, but these people have been having this impact on our local economy for years, and they have done this good and this and this and this and keeping people off the streets. Like, you never hear about street racing in Manatee County. Like, I never have heard of
anybody. I mean, you would know, right?
No,
I
mean, obviously, people do what they do. If there's a street racing spot in Manatee County, it's the best kept secret I've ever heard in my life. But like, why would there be? We have a test and tune every Thursday. Sometimes we'll race on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. All test and tunes just open to people. We'll have private testing all in between. Like, we do a lot of good. So it's good that we at least have this open communication and they see this. And maybe in 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is that we're like, hey guys, we need to build another racetrack. That'll help us.
I would surely think so. And I want to believe so, because again, I think motorsports is experiencing a renaissance. I really believe, when I look at all the hubbub and buzz about, and maybe I lean on these examples too much, but it really started with the Miami Grand Prix. And it's like, this is a thing. Like, sports stars are there, movies, A-list actors and actresses are there.
I think we're headed that way. And like, so what's really cool about this, I was sitting in the green room while you guys were all talking, is like, there's a ton of people like you and me and Courtney and tons of others that really believe in what we do and like are extremely passionate about this sport. And all we've wanted to do was like change the way it's viewed in any way we can and make more people view it. And in the last like 2 years or 3 years, since we've all been like doing stuff together and talking and communicating and just doing anything we can to help each other, we've changed so much. Like, I don't know if you ever stop and think and look back, but when you mentioned that the invite only thing is now becoming like a thing, it is. Everybody has bit off of that and everybody's doing it. And great. Like, if it's good for the sport and if it helps promote races and it helps pack a drag strip, let's all do it. Whatever. Like, we're all for it. But we're changing the landscape of a lot of these things. The live feeds have gotten better. The races have gotten better. The payouts have gotten better. Like, I remember when I first started, preaching about guaranteed payouts. And now I notice, like, races I've never been to, promoters I've never talked to, they made the change. They all guarantee their payouts. I've seen payouts that I used to be like, what? That's all they pay? And now that payout has gone up. Like, we're screaming about these things and people are listening. They may not say it, but we're changing for I hope for the better. We're making changes.
I agree. And I think we'll look back and there'll be things that we may go, oh, we maybe missed it on that. But I feel really good about the things that are happening in the trends that we're trying to push, because and we have to we can't keep doing the same thing. I mean, it's like the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I'm excited. And I think, again, to kind of Courtney's earlier point, the sport of drag racing is phenomenal. Like it's over quickly. It's easy to understand. It's a spectacle. It's a sensory experience. Yeah. Our on-track product really doesn't need improvement.
And you can be a fan of a car, a team, a driver. Like there's just so much. It's so easy to understand and fall in love with, like you said, and it's so easy to follow. It's such a great sport. We just need to get it in front of more eyes. Like I think we do a good job of
context. Yeah.
And we do a good job of putting it in front of like people that are gearheads. But what we need is new fans. And that's why I love doing the Christmas tree race, because Cletus will bring out a couple thousand people who have never been to a drag strip, and they don't, honestly, man, in the last couple of years, like him, the No Prep Kings, and a lot of these YouTubers, they have put so much attention and shine so much light on drag racing. I love it. It's awesome.
I mean, this is something that I've looked at. I don't know how many he has currently, but Cletus McFarland's YouTube channel has like over 3 million subscribers.
Yep.
And I don't know that people, and that deal is rooted in drag racing. Mm-hmm. Like it all circles.
Yeah, I mean, probably at this point, half of his content is created at Bradenton Motorsports Park or another track. And it's so cool because if he has, I mean, I don't know the numbers, right? But whatever. Let's say he has 3 million followers. I would venture to say 50% of them don't follow him because of drag racing. Honestly, the number's probably higher than that. They follow him, his crew, and what they've created. So when he puts drag racing in front of them and shoves it down their throat, he is bringing new people to our sport.
There's no doubt. I mean, I remember whenever I went down to see you in the summer and you had arranged, connected me with Cooper Baghetti to be on Cooper's podcast. We were having like a little powwow beforehand, and I was just shocked about how many of the drag racers that I hold in high regard that he doesn't even know exist.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's ingrained, makes his living essentially in the drag racing community or in the car culture community. And I don't know that he knows who Todd Totoro is. He doesn't know who Jason Scruggs is. And I'm like, these guys are gods.
I'm guilty of it too. So I started doing, events at Bradenton in 2013. And 2016 is the first time I watched, or 15 was the first time I watched Pro Mod go down the track. Like, I didn't know any of those guys. And we're doing the pro race, and I know some of who doesn't know John Force, right?
Right.
But there are names that I don't know, and I could just look around the room or just sense okay, this guy's a big deal. And then we get off, and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's the real deal. And it's that segregation that you speak of, and it's so cool to do what we do and do World Series of Pro Mod and do this pro race, because we're taking a little bit of the grassroots racing and the drag illustrated following and lifestyle, the Bradenton deal, and we're just mixing everything up with NHRA guys, and it's just so cool. And we're doing something that's never been done before, and we're showing people I guess the top of the absolute best that you can show when it comes to drag racing. That's what we're going to give you.
In a format and in a fashion, production wise, that's never been seen before in drag racing. That's what I like, things to look and feel different. I think that's as important as anything. And I think it's amazing the links to which other sports go to create that experience, because fan touch points, customer touch points, it starts on day one. Everything matters. I mean, I was telling my wife, we went to the Dallas Mavericks NBA game the other night, and literally when you pull into the parking garage, and as you're exiting the parking garage, they have a Dallas Mavericks team employee DJing with a little speaker setup just to create a vibe as you're walking out of the parking garage. You walk up to the will call window, they got a DJ spinning records up there, setting the tone. They've got a screen playing highlights and whatnot. They're every step of the way, they're selling it. They're putting it in front of you. And I think that is something that, like I said, drag racing needs the sport itself. Our on-track product doesn't need improvement. It's spectacular as it is.
It's the promoters and the track owners. We need to do a better job of making it a show, because it's the best show in the world.
It's the great American motorsport, brother.
That's it.
And I think a lot of it is just the wrapping paper, right? It just needs a little bit different. It needs a different look and feel. And people expect in this day and age, like young fans, they expect to be entertained from start to finish, from sun up to sundown. Wherever they go, they expect an experience, because that's what the Dallas Mavericks and Disney World and everywhere else has trained them to expect. That, like, this is going to be, it's going to be experience when I get my tickets in my email. It's going to be an experience when I follow these folks on social. It's every part of it is going to add to the experience. And it's incredible how far our sport has gotten. I think it speaks to the rabid fan base, the hyper passionate competitors. They have continued to just forge forward, but it's time that we change some of that presentation and we do it a little bit different and see what happens, right? Like I said, I keep going back to the fact that I'm not 1,000% convinced every single thing we do is going to be a home run, but I'm fairly confident we're going to be making contact more often than not. We're going to be putting the ball into play, and I'm really proud of that. And I do think that, BMP has been one of the tracks that have really started this trend of doing things a little different, trying things, making investments, right?
And that's what I was going to say. And that's what we need more of. Like, I don't want to take credit for whatever, but we need more people. We need younger people. We need people that are into the next generation. We need the next generation of this sport, the promoters, the track owners, people that are more involved with social media, people that can put this in front of new eyes and can make this, something that is just talked about amongst households like normal. Like, hey man, we're going to go to this racetrack tonight. Or, hey, did you see this? Or, hey, you hear that the guys from, did you hear that John Force is coming to Bradenton? Like, we need to make this a household brand and a household thing. And I think that, we're seeing the trends, we're seeing people change things. And like, if you think about it, I had somebody come up to me, random person, don't know who it is, probably saw me here or saw me somewhere at the Snowbirds. And he goes, man, I just wanted to tell you that this is the most fun I've ever had, like at any event, and you should charge more. I'm like, what? He goes, dude, we came here on Saturday and we paid $35 and we were glued to our seats from sun up to sundown, and it was insane. Like, he's like, I've never had so much fun in a single day, and you guys only got $35. And like, that's awesome to hear that he feels that way, right? That means that we're doing our job, and that means that we're creating
providing
memories,
value,
and we're providing value. And it's like, we need more of that,
100%. And recognizing that, like, attracting to those fans, we've been blessed, like I said, as a sport, to have a hyper passionate group of people. This community is action oriented, and I can't count the number of second, third, sometimes fourth generation racers I meet. Like, well, my grandpa started drag racing, and then my dad started racing, and now I race, and now my kids race. I mean, it's an incredible thing, but we cannot be reliant on that. We have to find a way to connect to folks and make it fashionable to be a racing fan. And that's something that I really started it last year, because I can't count the number of times, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and you're probably guilty of it as well. I know that I am. Like, I'm not racing, I'm not going.
Yeah, right? I was literally just thinking that. I'm like, why is it not cool to go to a drag race and just hang out and watch?
I know, and we've got to change.
When it happens, so like, I went to World Cup finals, driving a car for a client. Car got hurt, first pass. I hung out the rest of the weekend and had a blast, and got to walk around and talk to everyone and like shake hands and see people and watch the racing. And I was like, this is awesome. And it just solidified. Yeah, it just solidified what we're always talking about. Like, it's a great sport, and the people are what make it. So like, it's not the cars. The cars are cool, and we're all adrenaline junkies, but it's perfectly cool, perfectly fine, and it is cool to go to a drag race and just watch and hang out and have fun.
I couldn't agree more, man. And I hope that we can champion racing fandom, because I do think that other forms of sports seem to have a more proud fan base. Like you see folks wearing their NASCAR gear and their favorite driver gear, and they're not at all bashful about it. Like I know a gal from where I'm from, Northeast Missouri, that is like a rabid Tony Stewart NASCAR fan. Like she is a proud flag flying Tony Stewart fan, and she doesn't have like a background in crewing on cars, or she didn't used to race. She's a fan of Tony Stewart. She doesn't care what kind of car it is. She doesn't care if it's electric powered or nitro powered. She doesn't care. She's a fan of him, and that is something that I think needs to be fostered in the sport of drag racing. Because the story I always tell is giving my dad runs an auto repair shop in Northeast Missouri and has all sorts of customers that come in that are car guys, right? And I told my dad, hey, I've got here's a box of tickets to the ADRL race coming up in St. Louis. It's only 2.5, 3 hours away. You should give these out and you guys should come, I'm going to go or whatever. And my dad goes, well, do they have like a stick shift, no electronics class or something? And I'm like, no, dude, they're running Pro Extreme and Pro Nitrous or whatever. And he's like, well, if they don't have a class for us to run, I'm not going. And I said,
we need to fix that.
We've got to fix that, because.
But World Series of Pro Mod, I was walking around and there were, because I mean, there's not that many classes, right?
Yeah.
Tons of cars, great quality cars, not a ton of classes. So many of our racers, bracket racers, heads up racers, radial guys, small tire guys, like you name it. There were Pro Mod guys that didn't get an invite that were probably salty that they didn't get an invite, and they were there hanging out and watching. And that 100%. Was so cool to see. And it's because we created that thing that everyone wants to be a part of. Everyone wants to see it succeed because they understand and they truly believe in what we're talking about, that we want to grow this for the sport, not for us, not for what, but for the sport. And they supported it, and it was awesome, man. It was so cool.
That's probably I have a lot of things that really struck me during the World Series of Pro Mod, and especially like doing it for the first time at a new facility. It was our first time doing a race at Bradenton, and you wonder, and you do things, and there are guys that were on the outside looking in and that were, like you said, salty about it, and some of them were pretty vocal with me about it, but they were still there and they still supported it. And I think that is perhaps the ultimate proof, or the ultimate validation that, and I'm going to get on my Pro Mod high horse here, but that brand of racing, pro modified drag racing, is our sport's universal language. And we have to lean on it and get people there. And I think people see, part of my kind of secret motivation for this pro race is to get my hooks in some of these guys and get them to buy a Pro Mod. Yeah. Because I think that my vision for the future of the World Series of Pro Mod is an international series that travels the world and does major events in different countries. And that opportunity exists, but I know I've got to build inroads with the Antron Browns and the Ron Caps and the Cruz Pedregons and show them that, hey, there's a pathway here for you to race, a limited schedule or whatever in a lesser expensive type of car, a lesser demanding, a less dangerous type of car, very dangerous, but certainly different than 330 plus mile an hour cars, and still sell sponsorships and still race in front of
and have
crowds.
A damn good time. Yeah. And race in front of tremendous crowds. And what's really cool is so I'm getting guys now that let's say they run NHRA Pro Mod or PDRA or whatever. And they're like, oh, we're going to build an outlaw Pro Mod car. I'm like, but you already have a Pro Mod. Like, no. We're going to build an outlaw Pro Mod car because we want to come to Snowbirds, US Street Nationals, and World Series of Pro Mod.
Yeah, I know guys that's their program.
They're literally going to have a car for our 3 races. That's nuts.
And it's, again, and I support and I appreciate, is what I meant to say, all the companies and the brands in this industry that support events like the Pro Superstar Shootout and support events like the World Series of Pro Mod, because there's no denying the economic impact of these events. To your point, I know plenty of guys that built dedicated outlaw Pro Mod cars, ordered a new chassis, ordered new motors, ordered all the parts and pieces, wiring, everything that goes into making a race car, turnkeying a race car. It's because of events like this. And I had a guy tell me a long time ago that he asked me the question, what's the most important thing for the future of drag racing? And I was trying to sound like, oh, new fans, blah, blah, blah. And I was throwing, new money, new investments from sponsors, blah, blah. And he goes, successful promoters. And it struck me. He's really right. Like, these events, that people want to be a part of and recognize as, like you said, above all else, a great time. That's what everybody that I talk to about the World Series of Pro Mod, I tell them, first order of business is we are going to have a ball. Like, don't come if you're not prepared to have fun. If you're not a fun-loving guy, this probably isn't the event for you, because we are trying to have a good time. If we're going to do all this and we're going to spend all this money and we're going to do all this work, we're going to have fun doing it. And it can be fun. That was a lesson I learned from Sporty Bandamere at Bandamere Speedway. He told me #1 pass-fail for our events at Bandamere are people having fun, and everybody, and that extends.
But it translates, and that's that's what we've done such a good job about, is like we truly enjoy what we do. We have a blast. We throw a party, and there's a race mixed in with it. And it translates that way for everyone. And that's the energy, that's the vibe that we've created, where I think that unfortunately our sport still has a lot of tracks and people that they're just very old school and very just like, hey man, we're going to have this race, and we're going to pay this, and this is it. And no, we're going to have a damn party, and this guy's coming and this guy's coming, and we're going to pay a shit ton of money. And it's an energy thing. And you can walk around World Series of Pro Mod. We can ride around on a golf cart, and there's a freaking sandstorm because the wind is just unheard of, crazy, never to be predicted windstorm, or just insane. And there's a vibe, and everyone's having a great time sitting there and just patiently waiting for us to start racing and talking and walking around pits and getting autographs. We need more of that.
I don't know if you remember this, but I'll never forget it. You and I were standing on the starting line on Sunday at the World Series of Pro Mod, and first round of eliminations were just getting ready to start. And I believe we had Tommy Gray and Spencer Hyde right behind the water, ready to come up for the first pair of round 1. And I looked up in the grandstands, and I saw a whole pocket of racers who didn't qualify.
I remember you pointed them out. Yeah.
I'm going. I said, Vic, that's Jim Whiteley, Stephen Whiteley. That's, it was a laundry list. Melanie Salemi was sitting up there, John Salemi. And it was like, the fact that they didn't book, I know racers that historically, if they don't qualify, they're changing their flight. They gone, right? And the fact that so many of the people involved with that event stayed and were a part of seeing it through to completion kind of told me everything that I needed to know. That people really do,
that feeling of us. We had a lot of good moments that weekend. I remember Friday, middle of qualifying. I think I was in the stands, and I was sending you a picture, and you were sending me a picture from the starting line of the stands. But that feeling, and just seeing that these people, they bought in, right? They believed it, and we're gonna give them the show that we promised. And that was our first year at Bradenton with World Series of Pro Mod. That was the first time we had done anything together, an event together. It's only going to get better.
100%, because I feel like there's so much more to do. And I tell people all the time. I had a conversation with a racer yesterday, and he was throwing out all these ideas that he had, and maybe we could do. And I said, listen, we are just getting started. Don't think that we're at the end of the road and this is as far as it goes.
No.
We are just getting started. There's a great comment here. F1 already does 90% of what you guys are saying. It's not like this isn't possible. And I think that's what it's screaming in my face all the time.
I think there's so many people that for some reason just think it's not impossible, but really difficult to do or unattainable. And some of it is, and finding the funding for some of it and reappropriating money for some of these things. And unfortunately, there's going to be tracks that their financial situations may be in a way that they can't do these things, or whatever. But it's possible. You just have to believe that you can do it, and find other people that believe you can do it, and just hustle and believe in it and push it and have a good time. That's it.
And I think that there's another fantastic question here from Billy Zoggs on YouTube. It says, big payouts usually cut out the fun. When do you know if the win and the tow money is appropriate? And I would honestly say that if a racer, listen, and there's exceptions to the rule, but I think that you have to go into these things knowing that it's got to be more than the money. The money is a part of it. It's an ingredient, but it will not. We've seen it happen before. There have been major payouts thrown out for a variety of different drag races that have unfortunately fallen flat. And it's because you have to tick a lot of boxes. I've experienced it personally, right? You have to provide as much value to racers. I mean, if we're talking about racers specifically, you have to provide as much value as possible. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I mean, one of the ways that we do it at the World Series of Pro Mod is that we build in testing that's complimentary for our invited drivers. And that's something that really resonates with those folks, because they know they're going to get to come in and run the wheels off this stuff for 2 or 3, 4 days before they start racing for $100,000,
and get to test on this surface where they're going to race for $100,000, and get to test in the conditions that they're going to race in.
Shake down their new combo. I talked to a top sportsman racer this morning that said,
but there's no evidence to prove that payouts hurt the events. I mean, since I've been involved in drag racing, I've only increased payouts of almost every single thing that we do across the board. And those have been our most successful events, and we've moved the needle on all of those events, because if you enjoy drag racing, then clearly you enjoy competition. And what makes the competition better? The prize. The bigger the prize, the better the competition, right? We saw at World Series of Pro Mod, those guys raced at heavier weights than they raced all year, and they ran just as good and some better than they ran all year. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Because they were racing for $100,000, and I mean, what comes with that when you are racing for $100,000? And I think Spencer made a comment similar to what I'm saying at when we talked at the press conference. Yeah, it's not even. It gets to a point where it's not even about the money. It's just about saying, I won the World Series of Pro Mod. The money's awesome, but I won the World Series of Pro Mod. Like, and how do you create that? You create that by making the prize such a big deal that, like, if you win it, that is a prize in itself.
And you make it one of the things that I remember Manny Bajinga calling me. I sent him his invite for the 2024 running of the World Series of Pro Mod, and I sent it to him. I do this kind of, I have a little shtick, and I send out a text and see if they have a minute to talk, right? And a lot of
you're gonna
have
to change it up. Everyone knows.
I know. I'm gonna have to change it up. But then a lot of these guys immediately call me, right? Yeah, they got a second to talk. I'm gonna call you right now. And Manny called and he said, "What's up?" And I said, "Well, hey, I was just curious. Do you want to come down? How'd you feel about coming back down to Bradenton this spring and running for $100,000 at the World Series of Pro Mod?" And he said to me, he goes, "I don't care at all about the money. I want to be drenched in champagne and throwing hundreds up into the air in the winner's circle like Spencer Hyde. I want that moment. I want to experience that."
And they know that we're going to put as many eyes as we possibly can, whether it be through Flow, whether it be on our social media, whether it be the people in the stands. And that's what racer wants to win in front of 2 people or 5 people or 1,000 people. We want to win in front of the world. So as close as we can get to that is amazing. And that's what we try to give them.
And you have to, and that goes back to ticking these boxes. And I encourage track operators and promoters out there that maybe aren't getting the fans that they want to go outside the box. Old school promotion still works. I think there's a belief that it's all about social and you got to be posting everything on social. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's a tool to use, but don't discount going and shaking hands and handing out tickets and going to restaurants and going to gas stations and convenience stores and meeting people and putting tickets in people's hands and inviting them. Personal invitation goes a long way, because we've got to get new folks out to these races to experience this stuff and show them, put on a show for them. And we will, that type of thing, you get more out of your competitors. I mean, I tell this story, one of my favorite books tells this story about Elvis Presley early in his career. If he had a show that wasn't sold out, like in a theater or something like that, they would actually remove the unsold seats, because they knew Elvis Presley performs in front of sold out crowds. So so those empty seats, they got rid of them. That was the mindset.
Good for them
to make sure. And that's smart, because you don't want, you're going to get the most out of your competitors. Like you said, we saw guys rise up during the World Series of Pro Mod that hadn't had a great year, right? Hadn't been running well, had been kind of struggling. And here they come, and there's all this fanfare, and there's people everywhere. And all of a sudden, they're paying attention to things that perhaps they hadn't been paying attention to, or they're just seeing it through a
or they're
different
just willing
lens.
to push it, or whatever it is. And pressure, not everybody can handle the pressure, but in the end, if you're a competitive person, that pressure motivates you so much. Even if you're nervous and you don't realize it in that moment, and you just see it, and everybody did awesome. We had a weekend of, I don't think we had a single car even like wreck or like touch a wall or anything.
One pro stock car. Yeah. One
pro stock car. Yeah.
I mean, like, to run 61 pro mods without a crash, without
an incident.
Without an incident, some major oil down,
and run hard. Like, these guys were running. You if you qualified, if you went like 368, you went home or something like that. Yeah, it was.
I mean,
insane.
It's bananas. I mean, and I give it all to the racers. I tell people, I had a lot of folks reach out to me in the immediate aftermath of the World Series of Pro Mod with like, "Oh, good job," and it's like, "Hey, dude, you need to call 1 through 61." And tell them this same thing, because that race, the racers delivered. They had an opportunity, and they delivered in spades.
For sure.
It's the best guys in the world.
But they proved that they are worthy of what we asked, what we gave them. You know what I mean? They proved that this is what they deserve, and they proved that if we continue to push for them, that they will show up and they will show out for us.
I agree 100%. And I hope that we have created an environment that serves some aspirational purpose as well, because I think, as hard as it is for me personally, like a lifelong people pleaser, it's real tough to have anybody salty. It's real hard on me to feel like somebody's upset, but I know that it's a necessary thing. It's a necessary, because to force people to elevate. Right? Like, a lot of times I think there's this belief like, oh, we need to treat everybody the same and blah, blah. No, you need to be rewarded for being the best. You need to be rewarded for spending the extra money. You need to be rewarded for those extra test sessions that you did that no one else was there when you rented a track or whatever. You need to be rewarded for that. And it's funny because we have a pretty conservative, hardcore, like right-wing audience that are totally anti-participation trophy until it applies to them. And we have to be willing to we have to be willing to go, you know what? I sucked this year. I had a rough year. I haven't talked about this publicly at all, but I extended 2 invitations to the World Series of Pro Mod in 2020 here in the last few months that were declined. And that was something that I actually thought not about talking or mentioning. I thought, well, I better, this is kind of, it shocked me, but it was so funny. They said to me, "We're not ready." Wow. That's what they said to me. I said, I want to give you a chance. I believe that you're ready, and they said, "I appreciate it, flattered, but we know what that is. And we know we're not ready. We're not ready for that." And I
admire that. Like,
me too.
So we had a race, and I forgot what it was, but anyways, let's just say we had 5 qualifiers on the sheet, and that was our intention. We had rain. We only did 4. And one class in particular, the guys that didn't qualify, a couple of them just butthurt, whining, making an all-run field. And I thought about it, and I almost caved. I almost felt bad. And I was like, no. I was like, first off, it's not fair to the 16 guys that made the 4 runs and busted their ass. Now I'm going to tell them, hey, instead of 4 rounds tomorrow, you're going to make 5. It's not fair to them. And I'm, stripping them of a reward, right? Because it's a reward to qualify. And second, if you couldn't get it done in 4, there's a chance that you just weren't ready. And I got torched for that deal. And then so at the end of the event, I let them all make a run. And every single car that didn't qualify made a run and ran like shit. Completely.
Yeah,
like shit.
I mean,
and it was one of those moments where afterwards, a couple of them come up to me like, "You were right. We weren't ready. We need to go back and we need to work on our stuff." And that's okay. We need more of that. If anything, that is okay.
I couldn't agree more, man. There's no shame, because that's the thing that I try to express. My admiration and love extends to everybody in drag, not just the guys that are winning championships and setting records. I have an appreciate. I mean, I've raced in my family my entire life, and I'm not trying to bag on my family, but it's not like we've dominated. We didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I recognize that not everybody's got the resources. It's a conversation I have with my dad all the time.
There's some really good racers that have not won much. There's some really good pro mod drivers that probably haven't ever completed an event and won. They've probably done well, qualified number one, runner up. I think Ken Cortuccio's first pro mod win was last year US Street.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that's like, you know, he's one of the first guys I'm calling, right?
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, this is a high level.
And please believe nobody is saying like, and I don't take it that way. Nobody's saying like, oh, Ken's not all that. He doesn't want to race. Ken Cortuccio's a bad dude. He has a great team, a great car. This guy shows up and shows out, and like they put in the work. Great team, tremendous driver, driven Outlaw 632, Pro Mod, I think RVW Pro 275. Yeah, the guy's driven everything. The guy's a badass. He won his first pro modified race last year at US Street Nationals.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's proof positive that I use the story of Clay Millican quite frequently, but a guy that went over a decade before he won his first Top Fuel race doesn't seem to have, you know, changed his trajectory. Maybe would he be a bigger star if he'd won a bunch? Maybe, but I don't know that he would be. Right?
Yeah, it's not always the case. Yeah,
it's not always the case. I mean, it's so. Anyways, I think to answer the question, and we've beat all around it, but I do think that it just goes far beyond the money. And I think that the money is a tool that you use. It's something that impacts the event in a bunch of different ways. I've talked before about when we first launched the World Series of Pro Mod in Denver, the tool we used to pique the curiosity of the local media was the money. You know, we knew that telling them 250 miles an hour or pro mod, 3,000 horsepower, 4,000 horsepower.
That doesn't do it.
It wasn't going to do it. But when
everybody wants to win or watch somebody win $100,000. Like,
exactly.
I don't care what you're doing. You can tell me that they're playing cornhole down the street for $100,000. I got to see this.
Yeah,
I gotta see
1,000%. And I think that, and you just kind of recognize the value, like, because I see, and I've said this to the pro group and multiple other promoters and track owners, that I look at that big number at the top of the flyer, the 100,000 or whatever. It's part of your marketing budget in some way, shape, or form. Like, if you're not able to create, you know, the racer support or the sponsor support to pay that, you need to identify it as part of your marketing efforts, because it will absolutely attract the non-hardcore racing fan that knows these guys have been racing for $3,500 for 50 years or whatever. Like, they are going to see that big number, and it's a tool you can use to pique their curiosity. But it all boils down to making sure, I'd say this to everybody involved with my events, people don't remember what happened. They remember how they felt. And Manny Bajinga is a great example of that. Like, I'm sure he remembers what happened or whatever, but that's a different thing. He's a racer that pays attention to everything, but it's kind of an example of the fact that they remember how they felt at that event and how they felt when they came through the gate and how they felt when they were watching the winner's circle celebration. I mean, speaking about Manny, I mean, he felt jealousy, right? And he felt, I want,
I gotta get there. I have to do that. Yeah. And that's what we want to create.
Those memorable experiences.
You have to create a huge stage, and that's just one of the many ways to do it. And like, it was winner take all, and nobody batted an eye at that. I mean, at Snowbirds, we just did the Snowbirds, and we paid $52,000 to win. I had guys that went to the semis, like, hey, do we got to go to payout? I'm like, yeah, we pay for the semi. They didn't even expect it because they were there to win $52,000. You know, we didn't even finish it, but everyone was like, how does it work? What are we splitting up? I'm like, we're not splitting 52 because we paid $10,000 for runner up and we paid $2,500 for the semi. So we split at 4 cars and it was like $17,000.
It's crazy to me. I mean, but it's just, I've experienced that myself. I'll never forget in Orlando when we did the World Doorslammer Nationals in 2020 and 21. I had racers. I was telling them, like, hey, go to the motorhome because we've got round money for you or whatever. And they're like, no, we came to win. Just put it towards next year or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I'm that guy. Like, if I don't like, maybe I'll collect my runner-up winnings.
Right.
But past that, like, I'm out of here, dude. I'm loading my stuff up. I'm getting out of here.
No, and another thing that speaks to the incredible people that exist in this community. You know what I mean? Because it's like guys that understand what's happening and what it takes to pull this stuff off. They're always quick, you know, or they're completely comfortable with contributing to the greater.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about on here last time I was on here. I said that whoever won the Snowbirds, I would pay that, or they would get an invite if they weren't invited, and I would pay their entry. So I think everybody, the 4 cars that were left, were all invited to World Series, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I think we have to carry that over to US Street.
I think we will. We have to carry it over to US Street. So that's exciting. I've got room on the list, man. I'm looking at a whiteboard right here that is damn near full. Like
don't forget, I got 2 that I sent you too.
Oh, I know. And trust me, that's going to be very exciting. I think people are going to be up in arms in a good way about it. But Vic, hey man, thank you so much. Tell everybody real quick what we got coming up. US Street Nationals coming up just a couple of weeks from now, right?
Yeah. So end of the month at Bradenton Motorsports Park, the 25th through 28th, US Street Nationals presented by M&M Transmissions. We're going to do our final rounds of the Snowbirds during qualifying. And then we've got another amazing heads up, race. We got Pro Modified, 50 cars locked in, 32,000 to win that deal. It's the first stop for the Radial Outlaw Series. So Pro 275, X 275, LDR, Ultra Street, Limited 235, all of that. Those classes will be pretty stacked as well. So I mean, it's a little bit of everything. It's a really, really good race. It's kind of like the Snowbirds without the jets. And some people prefer that, right? It's just drag racing. That's it. Really good show. These teams, you always see what's cool about US Street Nationals is that everybody brings something new. You always see the new cars, the new paint jobs, the new teams. You may see a car and be like, wait a second, that's a new tuner, that's a new driver. So it really kind of shows what we're in store for the year. And now too, hopefully these guys will all be fighting to get into a World Series promo.
I can't wait, man. Vic, thank you as always, dude. I can't wait to see you. It's 100% upon us, man. I'll be moving in here in the next couple of weeks. So
thanks. Thank you for having me, man. See you guys.
Of course, brother. We'll talk soon, buddy.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, what a show. Guys, we're almost at the end of this deal, and I didn't even get to talk about a bunch of breaking news things, all sorts of stuff happening in the drag racing industry. But JT, Kayla, let's close the show. We got a few minutes here. I want to just thank everybody. We had a great crowd here, a lot of great commentary, all the people that support this program, from our sponsors, Redline Synthetic Oils, Stroud Safety, Flow Racing, Aeromotive Fuel Systems, Racer Club, all the brands that support this, but even more importantly, all of you.
Victor's background.
Yeah,
you
man.
See that?
You see that? The Drag Illustrated.
That's pretty awesome, wasn't it?
I love that, man. I love it. I tell you what, that's one of my favorite things to do is when I go to see somebody shop or I go.
Oh yeah, you see it hanging up.
You see all the Drag Illustrated plaques hanging up on their wall, and it just, I don't know, it makes me feel.
Oh, when you walk into Elite, it's like that whole wall. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's 185 issues of Drag Illustrated, guys. It's kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
185 issues. So real quick, Kayla, I'm sorry I had you sitting in the background there for too long, but let's just touch on a couple of things. There's some carousels happening in nitro level racing. We got some crew chief changes. We've got some driver changes. What are you most excited about, as it comes, as it relates to different drivers and stuff headed into 2024, like not only for the Pro Superstar Shootout, but as the NHRA season gets underway with the NHRA Gator Nationals in Gainesville?
So I'm excited to kind of see how everything lands, because I still feel like there's some things that are up in the air that, we might hear some chatter in the background. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the formation of some of these new teams like Ida, who's going to be driving with JCM Racing. I'm excited for that. I know that's been awesome. one of her goals for a really long time. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see Tony Stewart in a top fuel car. Is he going to have some nerves coming out at the Gator Nationals, or do you think he's ready and excited to get into the car? And yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of excited to see where the chips fall and everybody gets settled into their new roles.
Myself, I'm looking forward very much so to, I think it's going to be interesting to watch how this whole Skag's new factory team coming together. I can't say enough about Randy, everybody at Skag Power Equipment, because their commitment to the sport of drag racing is significant. It has been significant, but it is seemingly ever increasing. The presence they'll have in 2024, again, with the Superstar Shootout, but immediately following with their own race team. They're on the Pro Stock team with Jed Coughlin Jr. driving. I mean, it's going to be really cool to see him in that Tiger's Eye red or Tiger Eye orange Skag Power Equipment Pro Stock car, to see the footprint that they'll have, the formation of the Wilkerson Skag racing team. I think is really interesting. It's there. I'm hearing some scuttlebutt around that team as well. Maybe a different driver, maybe another car. I'm anxious to see how that all shakes out. 2-car team from Mike Salinas. I guess we're going to see. I don't know exactly what the schedule is going to be for Jasmine if she's running the full pole. Knowing them, they probably will. I think that's going to be fantastic. A father-son duo in Top Fuel, spectacular to see. I'm excited. There's been some people fall away. I mean, there's word circulating that Kyle Koretsky may not run a full season in 2024 in Pro Stock. Hate to see that. I think Kyle Koretsky's a character, Kid Chaos. He developed a fan base rather quickly, and I would love to see him out more often than not. But it's always interesting going into the season to see where everyone lands. One thing that I think we would be remiss not talking about or mentioning briefly, a little bit of sad news, is the passing of Don Schumacher. We've not been able to address that here on the show. We were dark during the winter here, the holiday season, but I just want to extend my sincerest condolences to everybody that knew and loved and had a relationship, worked for, or somehow impacted by Don Schumacher. I don't know that we can adequately, there's not enough time in the day to really highlight every single thing that Don Schumacher touched, from corporate sponsorships to team dynamics to the amount of people that he employed and the in-house fabrication and his footprint in the sport of drag racing. We may never see anything like it again. And immediately following, we lost Roland Leong. So just a rough little bit of a holiday for those of us that are hardcore drag racing fans, and we're around to see the impact that some of these characters had. And I just, our own Brett Underwood, our publisher here at Drag Illustrated, leads the sales charge for us, a close personal friend of Don Schumacher. It's been tough to see Brett go through this, how quickly it happened. But I just want to say that our heart goes out collectively to everybody that called those men friends or family members. And I'm looking forward to seeing that name, the Schumacher name, carried on in the sport of drag racing for a long time. I think that he built such an incredible foundation and has such an incredible group of people that have been involved in that operation for so long that I imagine it continues for a good amount of time. So tough couple of weeks though. It felt like every day there was something going on, but the holidays, that kind of sometimes happens during the holidays,
it does,
right?
seems like it, right? Yeah. I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe you're more tuned into at that time.
That could be it, but it does seem like an interesting thing. What do you, real quick, kind of closing notes? We've been announcing Pro Mod drivers left and right. Do you guys, what's your take on the World Series of Pro Mod? I mean, I know you guys know the list. You've seen the announcements. I mean, all these champions are our winner and runner up from last year, Spencer Hyde, Kurt Stedding, but also PDRA Pro Boost champion Jason Harris, PDRA Pro Nitrous champion Tommy Franklin, Midwest Pro Mod Series champion Keith Haney, Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Series champion Derek Ward, Mike Decker, the winner of the Yellow Bullet Nationals, Travis Harvey, the Big Dog Series Shootout champion. I mean, the hitters are coming.
Do you have a dry erase board? Do you have a dry erase board in front of you?
Maybe.
With all the names on it?
I do.
Yeah, I know.
It's a cheat sheet.
It is a cheat. I mean, it's one of my proudest possessions, really, is this damn rolling whiteboard, because I go mark the names on there, and it's like my kids look at it on
walks.
Yeah, I've got a leash for it. I roll it around the neighborhood. But again, man, I can't help that all of this is somewhat surreal. I mean, I can't help but go back to like trying to get Shannon Jenkins on the phone in 2005 and like to interview him for the first issue of Drag Illustrated, and how much has happened since that moment. And to know, to like look at this list and see the Tuttaros and these folks that have made Scruggs and these guys that have made this massive impact, and they are icons in our sport, and to know that they're in some cases towing cross country to be a part of the World Series of Pro Mod this spring is still extremely surreal to me. And I can't imagine how it'll feel, like I said, to stand between a couple of championship caliber top fuel cars and funny cars and pro stock cars during the Pro Superstar Shootout, man. It's crazy. I think that the next month, like the next 2 months in the world in drag racing, are going to be amongst the most exciting. Like, has there ever been like this much anticipation around a 30-day stretch? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No,
It's
especially at the beginning of the season. I mean,
right.
It's just like we're hitting it hard.
I hope if we accomplish anything, we've talked about this a lot, but I want to set the tone.
Yeah.
Right. I think that it's time we walk around as drag racers and drag racing fans and members of this community proud of what's happening, not resigning ourselves to doing things the way they've always been done, not resigning ourselves for waiting until these events that are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. I mean, there's room for it all. That's the thing. And I'll go back to the Phil Mickelson, Pat McAfee conversation this morning around the PGA and Live Golf. JT said it. He goes, man, it almost feels like you could there's some names in our sport that you could just throw in there and the conversation's the same, because Phil Mickelson said, like, the Ryder Cup, the US Open, these events, like they're rich traditions, and you have to have those. We need those in the golfing world.
He even admitted that he was ostracized for it, and that's going to happen. Like whoever stands their ground a little bit, or makes the first move, or is an advocate of something that's not the norm, like something that's, a lot of people don't like change, and you're going to get that blowback, and that's why. And he said that basically that I wouldn't be a good captain right now just because of that. But I was trying to lead the way, and now everybody's kind of following, so
it's cool to see it unfold, because it does really feel like we're getting to like watch. You hear the word disruptor is thrown around a lot, but like they've disrupted golf, and I kind of fancy
mostly because they didn't listen to him though. So I mean, and this happens in different sports, and it's happened in this sport. So, but it all boils down to they had issues. They tried to address them over and over and over and over again, and got shit on constantly. I mean, they made good money, of course, but my God, man, if you don't listen long enough, then they're going to find something else or some other way to accomplish their goals, I guess.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think where I think I don't know what happens, obviously, when none of us know what happens, but I venture to say that there's room in golf for the Live Series to be massively successful, while the PGA is massively successful. I don't know that those have to be exclusive happenings. It doesn't have to be either or, and we have to kind of eradicate some of that belief system, because that's basically saying that we've done all we can do and there's no more to go around, and there's no new fans, and there's nobody that cares about you. Can't resign yourself to that. You can't say like, hey, we've got X amount of fans and we can't let anybody else have them. We got to get our arms wrapped around these people and never let go. Well, I mean, there's kind of if you love something, let it free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
If it comes back to you, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. I mean, so I think a lot of that can apply to the sport of drag racing, and we've got to try some new things, the most dangerous words in the English language, because that's the way we've always done it. Right.
And I guess maybe even No Prep Kings would be something that started new. That is, I guess you could kind of compare that to the Live Tour, that it's grabbing the attention of younger people, people that weren't fans before. They kind of got caught up in the drama, and along the way, they probably became drag race fans, and I think that's a lot of what Live is. He said on there, you have you looked around? Do you see anybody not smiling at one of these events?
And I want to,
everybody.
Yeah, I don't think it should be a competition. It should be a compliment. They should complement one another.
Absolutely.
Just like everything in drag racing.
Cross promote, cross market. Yep.
Because I mean, that's the thing, is that I do think Courtney mentioned this at the beginning of the show, that there's this undercurrent of like dissension, that like we're defecting. The pro group represents people defecting. It's not at all the case. Every single one of the people, I mean, I think this is accurate, and if it's not, it's damn close. Everybody that's entered into the Pro Superstar Shootout will be in Gainesville. a month later, right? I mean, and there is absolutely, positively enough race fans and enough interest to go around to make sure that these things don't have to use that word again, cannibalize one another. They don't. They absolutely do not. And I mean, there may be things where there's an either or, and eventually you're going to see people make choices or whatever, or whether it's a sponsor choosing to spend their money here, not there. But those things happen no matter what.
No matter what.
Right?
Yep.
Those things happen no matter what. And if money's being spent in the sport of drag racing, it benefits us all. If there's new brands, new drivers, new teams, new interests, new fans, every single one of us benefits from it in some way, shape, or form. So, guys, great job today. Thank you a bunch. We miss Mike Carpenter. Mike's got I think he called it like the bio flu or something. He's very sick. So everybody keep Mike. He's doing all right. He's hanging in there, but he's not feeling well and couldn't be on camera. He could hardly speak. But anyways, thanks for filling in, Kayla. I appreciate it a bunch. JT, glad you made it. And so now you've made it all the way 13 miles from La Plata, Missouri to Kirksville, Missouri. Show's over. So now I guess you begin your pilgrimage home.
Yeah, it ought to be better now though, hopefully.
Yeah. You plowed the. We got some crazy news coming up in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. As always, we will be live every Wednesday afternoon right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel during the race season. I hope you join the conversation and again help us spread the gospel of drag racing. It's not going to be the three of us. It's not going to be a handful of racers. It's going to take every single one of us pulling the rope in the same direction to get this sport where it rightfully deserves. The great American motorsport. Guys, thanks for tuning in and joining the conversation. Click share, click like, and if you haven't subscribed to the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel, please do so. We'd love to join you, welcome you to the family. Guys, thanks a bunch.
Yep. See y'all.
Thanks, Wes. Bye, y'all.
Appreciate y'all. Talk soon.